Hello and welcome to the Antisocial Club podcast, the most useless podcast on the internet. Now, it's been like 4 months since the last one because I've just had no motivation. But today we're starting anew with Edward. Introduce yourself.
I'm Edward Doden. I've never really talked to Jackson ever.
Yeah, we just known each other.
But I've known of him. I said I was running for class president, and he made a poster or two for me.
Yeah, I made 3.
Yeah, 3 posters, and he was like, do you want to come to my podcast? And I was like, you know what, the least I could do is say yes, so now I'm here.
Yeah, and we're getting to know each other. That's why I like doing podcasts, is because even though we don't know each other, doing a podcast, I've learned more about people doing this than actually at school. It's super weird. Okay, now for starters, because you did say I helped you with your campaign posters, can you explain how, we talked about this beforehand, we just talked a little bit so we can get some topics. So how do you feel about kind of the politics in Creekside, with everyone running for president? What gave you the motivation to say, I want to run for president?
Well, for the most part, any type of election in school is more of a popularity contest. I don't really know. Last year I didn't even notice any sort of campaign. They didn't push it at all. I feel whenever people went up to vote, they just voted for the name they knew best.
Yeah, I did see there's a ton of posters everywhere. The bathroom right next to the portables was filled from top to bottom with different posters, and it just felt weird. And it's I don't think anyone really cared at all. If it were them, they would be okay, we need to get the posters, we need to get everything, we need to advertise, we need to do all that. But for other people, they're I'm just gonna go to school and as you said, just don't even notice who's running for president. You're just doing the top.
So I have a couple of tricks up my sleeve where I want to create a base of supporters, but not through just posters and being popular, but I actually want to
get people,
interact with people and let them know that there is an election. Because I personally last year had no idea there was an election until I went up to the lunchroom and I voted for the first name I saw. And I just don't think that makes much sense. If you're voting for your class president, you're voting for someone who's going to organize events, you're voting for someone who's, that's what a class president is supposed to do. God knows what Creekside class presidents do.
Oh no, I don't think they do anything.
Well, I can't know because the officer information meeting is September 10th.
Oh dang.
Yeah, so whenever I saw that people were already saying that they were going to run for class president, I was like, you know what? This is interesting. Looks like I'm late to the party, so that's how I started, posting.
Yeah.
To run.
Yeah, and even a funny story about running for president. In 4th grade, I just know background, I barely moved down to Florida. I moved down to Florida halfway, during Christmas break in 3rd grade. I moved down to Florida. We lived in a condo. We went to school. Then once we finally moved into our actual house, we went to Durbin Creek, and they had class president. And I was you know what? Why don't I try? And me being a dumb 4th grader, I thought, you know what I want to do? I want to run for president. I didn't even know a single thing about what they do. I was just I just want to run for president. I don't care. I just want to run for president. And I went to the board meeting. I don't even think I retained a single thing from that meeting. I just thought, I'm going to become president of the student council. I think that's going to be so cool. I didn't make it out of the classroom. There's a classroom election, then the kind of grade election and stuff like that. I didn't even make it through. There's only 2 people who are president, 1 vice president and 1 treasurer. And the only voting was for 2 people, and I lost that. Mm-hmm. And I just never really got into that stuff. But now I'm kind of the campaign poster maker, because I like Photoshop, and I was able to make yours. I was able to make Beckett's, and I even Jade Frick. She even posted that she wanted to become secretary, and I was I can make posters for you. And she's yeah, sure. I'll take some pictures so you can actually do it. And so that's kind of cool if people are saying you're free. I'm gonna abuse you. I'm gonna use you for campaign stuff. And the problem is that people don't realize that I'm actually doing this. Like, you are probably the only person who actually like tagged me that showed like, thank you, like Jackson Rob 360 for doing this for me. And like everyone else, like I saw like one of Beckett's and like there was no tagging. I was like, oh, come on. I just hate it, since you put time and effort into something that you're doing. You kind of want to say, like, you don't want to put too much of it, like you kind of just fall a little bit back and say, you know, I want them to say like, oh, that's kind of cool, Jackson, did you make this? And I was like, yeah, like I made that, I put time and effort into that, but like that's not happening. Like, people don't know that I'm doing this. I'm kind of like the silent hero for whoever like wins. Like, they're probably not even gonna like show off that like, oh, like, you know, these cool posters that are made, oh, they're made by me. Like, they're probably not gonna do that. They're probably gonna forget that I even made it for them. They're probably gonna think, oh, like, I got some posters, let's slap it on the wall and like just act like nothing happened. Like, that's kind of the problem. Even with like this podcast, I want people like to say like, oh, like Jackson made this, like, oh, Jackson's kind of cool because he made a podcast. That's not how it's going to work. It's probably just going to take like a little while before people like actually say like, oh, Jackson, like, nice podcast. Like, that's kind of the problem.
For stuff like podcasts and art, getting your voice out there is really difficult because you have to appeal to a certain niche of people. Podcasts especially, like, I had a podcast when I was 8th grade with a few of my friends. Most of them lived in Texas, and we were small, like 100 views per podcast. And
that's even better than mine. Mine, like, the only reason that like I showed them like my analytics for the podcast, that the total amount of viewers was like 100, and I didn't even know that you can put advertisements on every single one of your podcasts. So that was kind of dumb when I first made it. I made an advertisement. My advertisement voice is so terrible, but like my amount of money that I made is like not even $1, and I have like 160 because I thought like, oh, you're only allowed to have it in one podcast. But then like one of my friends who made podcasts like last year, he's like, bro, you can make, like, I saw that he had advertisements on all his podcasts. Like, oh fuck, like I could have made a lot more money.
Podcasts it's hard to make money off it. Like, if you're like the Misfits and you're like number one on Spotify,
and like
comedy and stuff.
And like the official like I listened to the official podcast and the Misfits, like the official podcast, they have like some big names. Like, they've had the actor Gibby on, they've had what's his face, David Cross on. They have like big names, and like I'm making this from my garage.
I remember that the only reason we got, for like 3 of our episodes, we got like 100,000 views. No, 1,000.
Oh,
sorry.
I thought that was gonna be amazing. You've been like, oh, mom and dad, like, I got a business.
Yeah, like 1,000 views, but that was only because this kid in Texas, he had a band, and the school kind of knew his band. You know, like, he was pretty, like, right now he's doing pretty well, but he had this band going, and we invited him to the podcast, and he was like, yeah, sure. And then he posted on his story, and he had
it got popular.
So like the podcast got popular just because they wanted to support.
That's kind of the problem with me. Like, I did tell you this earlier, but like, people who listen to my podcast are the people that I tell them like, hey, like, you don't have to, but you should listen to this. Like, I even had this girl who was like, I had a long distance relationship. It was like, she lived in Europe, but like, she listened to all my podcasts, but it was like, is she actually listening to them, or is she just like clicking onto them for like 10 minutes and then just clicking them out? But like, I have tried to advertise for it, but I don't think that people have the attention span for like an hour, like listening to people talk. I feel like they're just like, when is it gonna end?
The hard thing about podcasts is that you need to have an audience that is willing to listen to you. That's why the Misfits did so well with their podcast. They already had audience. They had a YouTube audience that would listen to them. And making quality podcasts is hard, because even if you have like the material to make a good podcast, like you need to have like good people on, or like have people that are able to talk. You have to put money into like editing software, and you have to do sound. You need to do like sound editing. If you want to do like a video with it too, you need to like make a room for it, and like you have to make the atmosphere, you know? And it was my original, this podcast, The Antisocial Club,
I made this in December because like I was thinking about making a podcast with one of my friends. We were like planning on like using his guest room and like buying a bunch of posters like of old like movies like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, things like that. Like we're gonna put in there and like we're gonna get this whole set, like even that back there. I'm gonna go get it, but like I even like it took me so long because like I had to from plastic. Let me just get it quick.
Yeah.
But it took me so long to like cut it since I used a box cutter.
Yeah.
And I even thought like I would put my phone in here and the microphones would come out these, and like I would be able to like have like 5-6 people on, but it never really worked.
At the end of the day, it's just about having fun. Like,
yeah.
If you do any sort of art, you do it for yourself more than other people. I feel like once you start creating for other people, it's just not as fun.
Yeah, like when it becomes a business, that's when it's like, this is not as fun as I remember.
Even then, the reason a lot of YouTubers take breaks and then come back is because they get so used to like making content for themselves, but they can't really stop making content whenever they start doing it for other people. It's a finicky thing to do. Doing podcasts right is hard for a number of reasons.
Yeah. Or making a successful one, because this one's just because I want to talk to people, and like I'm just so antisocial that like to actually hang out with people, I'm like, want to do a podcast? It's bad, but like let's talk about something else. Music. You have been connected with music since I usually see you like a lot with like musical instruments with like your guitar. And even when your posters is, you know, what I like more than music, my instrument is having your voices heard. Yeah. What got you into music?
So it's funny because I tried playing guitar in 5th grade and I played for about 3 months and I hated it, and
that's most kids with like instruments.
And then I stopped. And in 8th grade, the very beginning of 9th grade, I picked up like the end of 8th grade summer. The end of the summer after 8th grade, I picked up my electric guitar again, cheap electric again. I played a little bit. I learned a few Arctic Monkeys songs.
Aww.
And like, actually the first song I learned on guitar was Simple Man by Leonard Skinner, and it took me ages to remember the picking pattern and stuff. And then I met one of my friends, Yasmin Smith, which she really liked Arctic Monkeys, so I was like, okay, I'll learn this Arctic Monkeys song. And then from there it snowballed. I just kept learning more and more songs.
Yeah, you just started to enjoy it.
And I started liking it, yeah. Whenever guitar stopped being a chore, having to practice for your teacher.
Yeah, like I feel like
hobby,
actually my parents tried to make me learn piano like back in Utah, since I was born raised for like 8 years in Utah, and I remember like I played piano, but like I can't play piano like because when you're a kid you don't really want to play piano. You just want to go outside, like go on your bike, like play with your neighbors. Like that's when people actually went outside to hang out, not just like our street is so quiet, and it used to be actually fun because we had like a couple of teenagers that like we would play airsoft battles with. But with kids, they don't want to sit around and just like play an instrument. They don't know how it's going to affect them. They don't understand. Like, and with parents that like only care about their kids wanting to play piano because they lost that bit of their life because like their parents didn't want them to play piano, and like they're like, you know, you gotta learn piano. You gotta be my childhood that I wanted. Like that's even the problem with
instruments or go ahead.
Like that's the problem with like what's the one where like girls get dressed up and like they like
beauty pageants?
Yeah, beauty pageants. That's the problem with that, is that the kids, they don't understand what they're getting themselves into. The parents are the ones that are controlling it because they wanted to become like the pretty little princesses when they were kids, but their parents are like, no.
Parents want the best for their kids, and it's the same with like beauty pageants, instruments, sports. Usually it's your parents that put you into them. And instruments, it's particularly hard because for sports and stuff, you can be good at running.
Yeah. You can like running.
Yeah. But with instruments, no one ever picks up an instrument and just says, wow, this is so much fun. Because whenever you have a culture where music is based around instruments, and that's like one of the most popular pastimes, music. You listen to music on your way to work, on your way to school, you listen to music when you're doing homework. You hear all these artists that are so damn good at their instrument. And whenever you pick up the guitar and you see how...
You think you're going to be as good as them.
Yeah, it's really discouraging whenever you realize that it takes around half a year until you get that muscle memory made to where you can feel like it's not a chore.
Yeah, and you can learn it like super quick. Like you can just listen to it and think, okay, like this is what they got to do. Then you can recreate it very quickly.
Like for me, I'm decent at guitar, but I'm never going to be as good as Dominic Steenson. Well, it's going to take me a while to be as good as Dominic Steenson. It's going to take me a while to be as good as God-forsaken Eric Clapton, which is considered one of the best guitarists. But once you hit that point to where you have the muscle memory to where it doesn't feel like an uphill battle, it's easier. Like right now, I'm able to learn a song in a fraction of the time I was able to when I was younger, just because I've made the muscle memory.
You know of it.
Yeah. The guitar is no longer an instrument for me. It's more so an extension of my body that I'm just getting used to using better. But until your brain connects with the guitar and notices it as a different part of your body, it's really hard, you know?
Yeah, like it's foreign to you. It's like, how do I do this? Like, do I like pat it down and that makes the music? Like it's stuff like that like it's just like how do I do this? And like when you're a kid, you don't really want to learn it. But when you're kind of a teenager, you're thinking like, oh, like these artists are making this so effortlessly. I want to do this. I think it'll be so cool. But like that's not going to happen. Like you actually need to practice. And with practice, when you're a kid, you're just like, practice. Like I don't want to do that.
Humans are very bad at doing things they don't feel good at. A large portion of what we perceive as fun is what we are good at.
Yeah.
If you're not good at something, you're not going to see it as fun. If you're not good at something, you're not going to want to do it. So I feel like doing any sport or instrument, you have to persist and keep doing it until you build that foundation that you can actually like work on. Actually, one of the reasons I quit swim, I used to do swim, is because I broke my leg when I was younger, and I didn't.
Oh, what happened?
I just fell off this little bridge thingy. It was small. It was like at a park, but I fell off this little bridge thingy, and I broke my leg doing a little hobby I do. It's not worth getting into that. That's another story.
Yeah, that can be another day. But like, go on.
But I broke my leg. Didn't swim for about 2 years. Whenever I moved to Florida after that, I tried swimming again, and I was on the loggerheads team, and I was the oldest one on the team on that like division. And everyone else was getting moved up, but I wasn't, because I lost all my stamina. I lost everything.
Yeah, like it's kind of just like with working out. Like you could work out for like straight for like a month, and like you can like see your like definition. You can see like you can feel like better about yourself. But then like maybe like once, let's just say you did that before quarantine started, before COVID hit, and you're like stuck at home for a month, and then like gyms open up. You think, okay, I'm gonna try and like go for the bigger weights and see if like I can retain the strength. You're not gonna remember that weight. Your body's like kind of relaxed a little bit, and you need to like keep it on edge so like it's able to build more. And like that's why like you can't really take breaks and like think that you're gonna be as good as when you before like an injury or like before you just did something else.
Yeah, that's why I quit swim. I used to be pretty damn fast in Texas. And whenever I moved here after breaking my leg, I was so slow. I had no stamina. Something when I was little that I could do easily, and it was like torture for me. But I work out now, and it's interesting because I stopped working out for about 2 weeks, so I went on vacation over the summer. And whenever I came back, I was like, 2 weeks, and some of these weights that were easy before are a little bit harder than they were. Yeah,
and you can't like train your body. You can't like instantly go for the big weights, like to see like, okay, like I lost my stamina, I need to catch up. You need to go slow. Like there's no going fast, there's no fast track. Like you actually need to work on it.
Yeah, it's funny because this conversation applies to real life as well. You can't expect to go into something being 100% of what you can possibly be. You need to work for that 100%.
Yeah.
Any teacher that tells you have to give your 110%, that's complete bullshit. You can't.
Because you can't get that 10%.
It's not even that. You can't give your all when you first start off. You can give your best effort, but you're never going to be 100%.
Yeah, you're never going to be like a straight A student after like having a
you
bunch of
work for
like
it.
B's and C's.
So yeah, so like if you have a 3.5 GPA and you want to get to a 4.5, giving your all isn't going to give you a 4.5.
Yeah, actual
You're just
effort.
you're gonna burn yourself out. You need to work towards a goal. You can't always give 100%. You have to start off, ease yourself into it, because if you don't, you're gonna get discouraged. If
Yeah,
you walk
like
into something expecting 100 and you get a 60 and you give up.
yeah, that I gotta think of how that applies to me. I just have a boring life. All I do is play video games and just sit in my depression. But like it can, like, I've done a lot of sports when I was younger because like you had to do something to like keep your little energetic bodies like moving. Like I did soccer with my dad as a coach for like 3-4 years. Like even when me and my brother were like, when the ball was bigger than us, we were playing soccer.
Yeah.
And I hated doing it. Like I felt like I was just so bad, and then I tried baseball and it was like terrible. Like I hated it because it was like the T-ball. There wasn't any like gaining experience. All it was you hit the ball, you only go one base. You can't go two bases, you only go one base. And it just was boring to me, and like I just never really got into sports. But like I am in theater, and I'm a theater kid, but I'm not like, my whole life is theater. Like I just love acting. That's why I do theater. Like I'm really good at acting. Like I can be a character, but it's not like, I'm not gonna think about being in a big old blockbuster movie just by being in like one production. Mm-hmm. But like yeah, like as you said before, like it kind of diminishes people because like they want to be the best they can be, but they can't with nothing at all.
Yeah, societal expectations suck because, so like you said, you're antisocial, right?
Yes, I am very antisocial.
So you stay inside all day and you feel like all you do is play video games and stuff like that, and then you look at, let's say, the popular kids that go to parties every Friday and shit like that, right? And you're like, damn, that sucks. I want to be like that.
And I don't really like going to parties. Like I've never been high, I've never been drunk, like but I'm friends with people who are that way. I'm really like chill with everyone at school. Yeah. But like I look at social media, like some people see social media as a game, like seeing, is this post, like this post has to get like 1,000 likes.
Or else I'm not good enough.
Yeah, or else I'm not good enough. Like that's why I don't post a lot on Snapchat or like on stuff.
I feel like people are too worried about what other people think.
Yeah, like like their image, like they want to like have like people tell them that they're good at stuff. Like even as I said before, like I kind of want people like to appreciate my work, like because I put some effort into like the campaign posters, but like people may not know that I actually did them. Like
I feel like it's all about being yourself because like on a normal day, like chances are you wouldn't get along too well with my friend group. I wouldn't get along too well with your friend group. But we're still sitting at the same table talking. Yeah, like we're all human. We have to communicate. You don't. I think it sucks, but oops, I just choked on my own spit. I think it sucks whenever people feel bad because they sit inside all day and play video games. Like no, if that's what you feel good doing, more power to you. You know, like don't let anyone tell you that you're not good.
Yeah, and like even with school, so even with school, like even though they may not realize it, we set ourselves up for failure with like having like the popular kids or maybe like the middle kids like me. Like I'm chill with unpopular kids and popular kids at the same time. It's just that I just don't care some of the times. But like some kids may be super scared to talk to the popular kids, or maybe like they may have a popular kid in their like group for like a project. They may be scared to death over like talking to them because like they don't want to ruin their image because like, oh no, you may not see this if you're an audio listener, but he just poured a bunch of his water
on my phone. It's fine, it's waterproof.
Oh, that's nice. But like that we like with grade levels, you may be super scared to talk to a senior because you think do they like me or not? Like, are they gonna like me? Like, and just stuff like that. Like, I feel like that's bad for people going into the real world where people are going to be older than you. People are going to look intimidating. But with school districts, they're like, okay, we're going to like have grade levels and like have them not be together, like, and it's just bad, and I feel like it just sucks.
It's a double-edged sword because for things like grade level and learning level and age, they have to be separate up until a certain age, but at the same time it makes people scared of higher grade levels. And I know this from personal experience. I was always, in middle school, I was the weird kid.
Yeah.
I was, if you knew me in middle school, you didn't.
I did know you in middle school. I knew everyone in middle school.
Like, this goes for anyone. If anyone knew me in middle school, they didn't know me. Like, they forget that. That's not who I am. At the beginning of 9th grade, I tried fitting into a group of people. They were like the popular kids, right? Like,
yeah.
And they vibe well with each other, but I just didn't vibe well with them. Like I was trying to be something I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I realized that it's not always good to try to fit into something. You just have to try to fit into who you are. Yeah, like if you're yourself and you're expressing the way you are openly, you're always going to find a group of people. You're going to gravitate towards people who are similar to you. And once I stopped caring about like what quote unquote the popular kids cared of me, or what like the less popular kids cared of me, just I care about what my friends think of me.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they chose me and I chose them.
Yeah.
If you have to work, if you feel like you're working super hard to be accepted into a friend group, maybe it's not the right friend group for you.
Like, yeah, and even as I said, you were in 9th grade when you got your a friend group. Like, I never really fit in with one friend group. Like, I remember you sat with me at lunch one time with like Keaton and stuff. And that was kind of like my friend group back then. Like, I would hang out with Bryson, Keaton, Bill, people like that.
Yeah.
And like we kind of fell off. Like, we never really talked too much, except for Bill. I talked to him sometimes. But I finally got my friend group because one of my best friends, Talmadge, he's one who I started the podcast with. He kind of had a friend group, and I was like, hey, why don't I join the group chat? Since like he had a group chat, and then it spiraled into actually me becoming friends with them. And like I was just the kid who like hung out with like just people, random people, and like that I sat down in with my class and like just, and then I finally got a friend group, and I thought it was like amazing. Like I could hang out with people, and like they actually wanted to hang out with me back, and it's just, and I just was myself. Like I still hang out. Most of them fell apart, but like it's just, friends are an important part of your life. Like no matter what, people are gonna help you in your life. Like you're gonna learn who you like, who you hate, who you're chill with. It's a good experience. Like that's what school is good for, is for you to talk with your friends and to learn stuff about yourself.
Yeah. It's humans are social creatures. We
have emotions that like
what differentiates us from other animals is that we can use our language in really complex ways. We're able to lie about things, we're able to make up stories, we're able to describe that there's a lion that's trying to eat us about 4 miles away across the bridge. Other animals can't do that. I'm reading a book right now. It's called Sapiens by Noah Harari, I think. And it really goes into detail about how language and communication defines us as a species.
Yeah, because we can actually like talk using the language that people can understand. Like, but with animals, like their language is so complex to us that like we can't understand them. It'll take us years before we do.
I feel more so it's their language is so foreign to us that we can't understand it. They have a very rudimentary way of communication, and us as humans, I hate it when people say that, oh, we talk too much, like whenever people say your dog ignores you because he thinks you talk too much. That's not necessarily the case. We talk a lot because we give a lot of detail when we talk, but I digress. That's a completely other topic. But what I was trying to go at is that if you don't feel like you're included into a group, and if anyone feels like they're being excluded from something, it inherently has no way that it won't hurt.
Yeah, like dogs can't understand us too much, like to understand like what we're saying. They only know like, oh, human is talking to me, or like stuff like that. Like oh, humanist home, I'm gonna go and see them. Like they're not as simple. Like they're complicated, but they're simple to us. Like they probably don't have a lot of stuff they're thinking about since they've been domesticated.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's just evolution that, like, we start out in communities back in early times. We got into communities, and then once you got into communities, we kind of set on a belief of religion, and then we kind of like separated, and then like we found more religions, and it's just so complicated with like religion and race, because like we've had this whole quarantine, we've had like an issue on like racial things, like because of George Floyd. Like we kind of realized like, wow, like we need change. Like they've been wanting change for years, and like they just never really did. But like now they're finally being able to do it. But the one thing that I hate about kind of the changes nowadays is people getting canceled for stuff that they did like years ago. Like, what are your opinions on that?
I think it's stupid. People always change. I said and did some pretty stupid shit when I was little. Like even in the podcast that I had, we all said some despicable things.
Yeah.
we by the end of our like career, because we uploaded some of our podcasts on YouTube. I think we got a total of 12 strikes. So that means that we had to appeal a total of 12 videos, and 9 of them we got our videos back. But
it got terminated?
Yeah, no, our channel was terminated ages ago. It got terminated twice, and then we kept appealing, and YouTube was like, okay, don't do it again, okay, don't do it again.
Yeah.
But we said the stupidest crap. Like, the reason we quit was not only because they were going to college, but some of the things we said were so effed up that...
No, you can cuss, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Some of the things we said were so fucked up that they didn't want that on the internet, so we just...
Yeah.
We didn't appeal any more of our strikes. We got our account terminated on YouTube. We were like, okay, good. That's a closed end. No one's going to know that we said some pretty effed up shit on GTA 5 when we were playing.
Yeah.
And then we, on Twitch, once again, we did some despicable things in GTA and said some despicable things. And
yeah, like, you were a changed man. Like, you were able to think like, wow, that was like immature of me.
Well, it's funny because whenever I'm joking around on Xbox and stuff, I still say some pretty effed up crap, but nobody means it.
Yeah,
Back then I didn't mean it. Now I don't mean it. And I feel like cancel culture is one of those things which it doesn't discriminate. You know,
like anyone can get canceled. Like think about Pink Eye, and think about Joji. Like the K-pop communities, like most of the banning because they believe like everything has to be goody two shoes with like BTS. They're like all good, but like in reality, like they're BTS and like K-pop. It's like all set up. Like everything's marketed. Like these people don't have a choice most of the time. But like with that, like Pink Eye, like Joji created a community with Pink Eye that like he wasn't able to be canceled. Like people were like, he did this stuff he joked around about this stuff. He didn't mean this stuff. Like there's no way you can say like, oh, like this person wanted like to kill all the Jews, or like thought that Hitler was doing the right thing. Like they're joking around about it, but like
I feel like cancel culture, the reason I don't agree with it is because it can't read when people are joking. And
because people are like, what? Like,
and there's always going to be people that say, if the joke can be canceled, it shouldn't be made. And that's not right either, because a lot of comedy is based on being offensive. A lot of jokes are made to bring light to what's dark. That's why dark humor is funny.
Yeah.
Humans as a species are really cynical. We like hearing effed up jokes.
And like we become desensitized to things, and other people may not.
Well, think about it. The N-word.
Yeah, that one's like the toughest thing. Like that's, if you say it once, like maybe on Twitter, since Twitter has changed exponentially, because Twitter back in like 2012 was like, you would say like, oh, ran over like 10 kids today, like living up the good life, like stuff like that. And that was comedy. And now like it's biting people's asses because like people thought he killed a bunch of kids. Like he should be taken out of like everything he put time and effort into.
So the issue with the N-word is that I don't condone the use by anyone.
Like even...
But Well, I mean, of course, if you're of the African American community, I guess it's your choice. I still think that it's. I digress. The moral of the story is that it is used so often
that we become desensitized
media,
to what
it's
it
used
made.
so often in music. It's used so often by our classmates that are of color, and yeah, they're allowed to use it. They have the full right to use it. I, as a Caucasian male, should not use it.
Me too.
However, whenever you become so desensitized to something, whenever you hear so many people say it so often, you shouldn't be canceled. Like when PewDiePie slipped it up, he's obviously not racist. He lives in Japan and he's Swedish.
Yeah, and
he's obviously not
people thought like he was a neo-Nazi because like he wanted to kill all the Jews. Like it's just stuff that happened back then. I feel like people should be given a second chance. And so
I have to head out here in a few minutes because I have to go somewhere at 3:30.
Okay, thank you guys for listening to this podcast. And Edward, anytime you want to do a podcast or you're bored, you can always just call me up because honestly, this is just so fun to talk to people that like I'll do this with anyone. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I will tell you when this is on YouTube since it's getting recorded. And hope you guys have a good day. Goodbye.